somebody asked me one day, why do you think you managed to become a professional athlete? And my answer was pretty simple. It's because I hate losing far more than I like winning. You can be in the greatest company in the world, but if your boss or your bosses or, don't care about elevating you, mentoring you, understanding what you're good at, etc., or don't listen to you when you have career aspirations, it's no good. You'd better be in a lesser company where somebody has your best interest at heart. The Black Lives Matter movement, etc., is something that is justified in its essence. But I think, we have to get away from, there is a difference between saying Black Lives Matters, not less and not more than any other, and just Black Lives Matters because we're better. This woman opened the door, did not let me in, looked at me in the eyes and said, you can't imagine for how long I've been waiting for this moment.
Are you
because
serious?
I did not want my daughter to finish in a bloody African village.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new podcast here at NC Podcast. My name is Nikon Karaman, and this is a podcast about people like us. Today, I have the pleasure to meet a man who is working at a global multinational firm. He's an executive, corporate executive, and he is, to be honest with you, he's a man that he inspires me a lot. And from the first time I met him, I knew that he needs to be at this podcast. And when I asked him to do it, he was the most excited person in the world who accepted. So please meet Mr. Nyembo. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, Nikon. Great to be here with you. And you've said very, very nice things about me there. And I'd love to meet the person that you're speaking about.
No, come on. You have to. I call you captain because we play football every Sunday. So, and you are a very competitive person, but also very open-minded, and you always try to accommodate people. I remember first time that I came, I didn't know anyone because someone told me that, look, you want to play football on Sunday? I said, yeah, why not? Come. And I remember we played there, and you were probably one of the first people who came and said, oh yeah, Nikon, hi, I'm Nyembo. Okay, let's play, So that's a quality that you have. But we will get to football, we'll get to that. But let's talk about, you live now in London, you work for a big corporation. You deal with, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
And so, tell me, how did you come to London? How do you find London? And yeah, do you enjoy it?
Absolutely. So before coming to London, I was in Belgium for many, many years. When I left my home country, the Congo, at the age of 16, to go and pursue my dreams, like most people. Went to Belgium to play volleyball, and while I was a professional athlete, I did go to university and became a lawyer. And then in my late 20s, when I was coming at the end of that career, like many people, I needed a change. And people usually decide to move elsewhere for two reasons: either to pursue something or to run away from something. It's one or the other.
I like that.
And for me, the decision was really to, about how I wanted to mentally approach this next step of my life. Was I going to be a former athlete trying to reconvert, or there in Belgium, or was I going to be a young lawyer trying to make a mark for himself in another country? And I chose the latter. So London for me was very attractive, not so much just for the language, because I was already sufficiently comfortable with the language, but because it's a place where you have a very, very different velocity in the way that you can actually build your career. In Europe, it takes time. It's very slow. People expect you to perform the same job for 15 years before you can have any sort of ambition to move forward. I was already 29. I wasn't prepared to wait until I was 50 to start making an actual living for myself. So I thought going to London, where I could make a mark and progress faster, was the right call to make. And I don't know if I was right, but I think
I think you were. It just shows
it worked a little bit.
But to be honest, what made you actually? How old you were when you left Congo?
I was 16.
16.
Yes.
So you've decided to go to Belgium.
Well, yes.
But then, so you went to Belgium to pursue a career in volleyball.
So the way things happened were it happened very quickly. So it was just like everything in life, a series of fortunate or unfortunate events, and then an opportunity that presented itself, right? So in the late 80s, early 90s, Congo was undergoing a pretty big turmoil. It was the end of the Mobutu era. Mobutu was this big dictator who had been in power for over 30 years, etc., and he was getting pushed out of power. So there was a little bit of unrest, and in 91 things exploded. And I was 16 back then, and what happened is one day, coming back from school, I was still at school, I came back home and I told my parents, it was on a Friday, that the school had closed. Wow. And they said to me, yes, we know. There is a plane for you tomorrow morning to go to Brussels. We've made some arrangements with a couple of people we know. They'll help you settle, take a little apartment. We've actually, put you at a school. And so within 24 hours, I was gone.
Oh, so it wasn't your choice. I think your parents made your choice for you.
Absolutely. But at the same time, I had been spotted by this volleyball recruiter a few days before that, mind you. And that person said to me, if you ever come to Belgium, I'd love to get you in our club for a trial. Mm-hmm. And he came home and spoke to my parents. So both things collided. So as soon as I got to Brussels, he was obviously my first call. I went there and started training with the under 17 team. And within 3 months, I was in the first team for training, at least.
Yeah. Wow.
And it all started from there.
That's fantastic. So basically, volleyball. So basically, you made your step to a new country through volleyball. But at the same time, I'm curious, how did you manage to speak the language? Because obviously they speak French, I guess, in Belgium.
French. Yes. So I'm from a Congolese father and an Italian mother, and so I was raised in French and Italian because in Congo we obviously have our own national languages. Yeah. But French is the administrative language that everyone speaks across the country.
And you have to speak it.
Yes. And also I was in the French Lyceum, so I was already...
Is it a beautiful language? No, I know a few words. I studied French for a few years.
Yes.
I love singing in French, but just singing,
Our next podcast will be in French then.
Yes, of course. Amazing. So Belgium, and you've been at school. So you are 16. You went to Belgium studying at school at the same time going to training.
No, absolutely. The good thing is I was at the French Lyceum, and it's a setup that is global. You can go into any major city and have a French Lyceum, just like we have Jean Monnet here in London and everywhere else. So when I got to Belgium, I went straight into the French Lyceum. So it was a natural continuation of my studies. Mm-hmm. And I was playing volleyball at the same time. And something pretty strange happened back then. Two events that happened more or less at the same time. The first one was I was feeling uncomfortable even though I was an athlete, and I am an athlete inside me. The rest is what I do, right?
Yeah.
But what I am is an athlete. People wanted, you have all of these, career advisors in schools but that, that give you all sorts of advices, and they wanted me to just not use my brain and become a sports person. And I was feeling pressured not to use my brain, which was very frustrating for me. And at the same time, in my club, somebody made a comment one day.
Yeah.
They said to me, "You're 6'1". You're very talented, but unfortunately, you're not tall enough to become a professional."
Oh, really?
And that really, really triggered that
Yeah.
sense of having to prove something.
Yeah.
And both elements combined made me want to pursue that career, but also want to use my brain. So while I was trying to become a professional in volleyball, I still went to university and completed my law degree.
So you have to be sort of grateful for those two people that, in contrast, sort of helped you to achieve what you achieved. And
Yes.
if weren't for them, you were probably, I don't know, just a broke athlete, like a lot of people, they don't trust themselves.
No, it's true. But again, it's because the way that I am personally wired.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me one day, why do you think you managed to become a professional athlete? And my answer was pretty simple. It's because I hate losing far more than I like winning.
Oh, wow.
And to your point, that helped me. But in life in general, it's far better to have people that believe in you than people that, motivate you by trying to crush you down. Right?
Yeah. Do you think they did that because they wanted to crush you, or because they just
No, because
said that was the reality?
Yeah, those are comments that sometimes are made by people with no ill intention, but but without understanding sometimes the consequences that can have on people's lives and self-belief and confidence and so on. So you are recently a father. And,
yes, thank you. Thank you.
You are going to understand as things progress, as your little one grows up, that everything that comes out of your mouth, everything that you tell him, has a consequence, and so it's very important.
Well, at least I have a teacher now. He can teach me can give me some good advice, and I'm sure you will give me some advice until the end of this podcast. But you said about. You were 6'1", and they told you that you can't achieve like big success in your career. For me, it was the same. I'm 5'8", and I wanted to become a model, an actor, and I had this all the time. They were just telling me, "Look, you can't," and it's true. I mean, like, okay, if you want to be a model, like for print, photo, you can. But if you want to do like professional modeling, catwalking, it's a bit difficult to be 5'8". So I've decided to go into acting, and then decided to go into production, video production. And I hope I used my brain as you did. You had to adapt. And but I feel for you. I know it's a little bit disappointed because I'm as you. You are like sort of an athlete. You want to achieve your dreams. You want to do that. But sadly, sometimes you have to admit that, nature didn't give you like those few inches to do that. And
yes and no. But if you look at, a lot of people, or whether it's athletes or musicians or sometimes having some level of impediment or not falling into the right archetype can actually help you, because very often, I'll give you an example. I watch tennis a lot. One of my favorite players is Rafael Nadal.
Nadal, yeah.
The one thing that they teach you in tennis when you start learning that sport is always have your feet on the floor when hitting the ball.
Oh.
He never has.
Really?
Every time he hits the ball, he's in the air.
He's jumping.
He jumps and hits the ball. So it's like in sport, like in life, people have sometimes something in them that is atypical that enable them to stand out from the crowd. So embrace not only your differences, but even in life. My advice to my kids, to my friends, to my colleagues, etc., it's always also embrace your failures, because you never know what setback in life will catapult you forward. right? It's very, very important. I'll give you an example. Today, if you start a business and you go and you're trying to raise some funds to support your business,
Yeah.
the bank will not give you a loan if you haven't failed.
Oh,
as an
seriously?
entrepreneur. Yes. Because
Also, that's the problem. That's why when I apply for a loan, you say, "Did you we're bankrupt?" Oh, what? No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking.
maybe not bankrupt, but
I'm joking. Yeah.
we learn so much more from our failures,
from failures, yeah.
than we learn from our successes. So as a young entrepreneur, if you've had some setbacks, what you take away from that are things that you know you can't repeat. Where success, sometimes things happen
Yeah.
and you don't have all the elements to understand why you became successful in the first place or why
Yeah.
that project actually worked, etc. So embracing your
But you know what? I actually, you're absolutely right, because I think even last week I was thinking, oh look, I've got so many things to do. I've got acting, I've got my radio station, I've got this production, and sometimes you think I've got so much and I'm not doing very well. But even in those moments when you wake up and you say, oh my God, it's not going great, only in that moment I realized that you sit down and you think, how can I improve it? How can I improve it? And that's, we need more days like this.
Yeah.
When you realize, look, I can do it better. I'm not happy with where I am. Let's just find some solutions to grow.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
That's powerful.
Absolutely. So evolution is to not accept the status quo and saying, how can we do things better? And as you progress in your career and you're building, this network and many other things that you're building, is to sometimes go from, I want to change what's not working from me, to I also want to better or change even what's working.
Yeah.
Because you have to fix what's not broken as well if you want to go further. You don't have to wait for something to be broken to try and better it.
Yeah, it's like...
And that's very, very important.
Definitely, Captain. 100%. I read this book recently, David McCourt, Total Rethink, where he talks about like big corporations. So you get to a level, like a very high level, and from there, there's only one way down. So he talks about how can big corporations like this always think to improve and think like a new corporation, like think like a new business, because you always have to evolve to not get to the mentality like we're the best, we're the greatest, we're the biggest, because you're gonna, like, there's no way you can grow. And then if you have the mentality like for a small business where you always find ways to improve and still to grow, then this is what you have to do. And it's exactly what you're saying.
Yes, and you have to, on the one hand, being able to recognize what is changing around you, having that flair for where the world is going, it's very important. And then you have to have the people and the executives with the right mentality, recognizing what's changing around you. I'll give you a couple of examples. A few years ago, I don't know if you remember a company called Blockbusters.
Yes, of course I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
A group of young people came to sell them this new concept that they had put together called Netflix for $50 million, saying, we believe that this is the future. Renting a videotape or a DVD, that's not, that's going to disappear because the future is online.
Yeah.
And the Blockbusters executives laughed at them and threw them out of the room. Now Blockbuster is busted.
It's busted, yeah.
And Netflix, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, right? Because those guys had failed to recognize that, everything was going to be online going forward, etc. So those are small things. But at the same time, and when we start talking about leadership, it's really about that. Being able to have leaders that are comfortable understanding what's required from them. Just to elaborate a little bit on that. Very often you have, at all level of leadership, managers, directors, vice presidents that are in a situation where they only feel comfortable when they are involved in everything, when they are running things on a daily basis, etc. And when people underneath them are less than them, at least in their own mind. A real leader is somebody who understands that when you are just an individual contributor, you have to be the smartest kid in the room and to try to make a difference, right? When you're a leader, you have to be the dumbest person in the room. I'm not saying that suddenly you have to become dumb. I'm saying that you have to build a team of functional leaders that are better experts at each one of the components than you are. And you have to make yourself redundant so that the business, just like a football team, becomes a well-oiled machine, and you can extrapolate yourself from the day-to-day running of the small things to start thinking strategically. How do I take this business forward? What else is happening on the market? What are our competitors doing, that could potentially hurt us in the future? How can we get ahead of them? You cannot think strategically if you're constantly firefighting things within your teams. Right? So having that recognition that I need people that are functionally better than me as my leadership team so that I can focus on getting my business to the next phase, it's what makes a great leader. And a lot of companies are failing in that department.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. But how do you find people like this? You have to build them, I think, isn't it? You have to have like a natural sort of ability to get to that level where you say, look, I'm not important here. My team is important. Of course I'm important, but as you say, I need to think of things how we can progress and let them do their job. They're better than me at doing their job, and I'm going to focus on how we can get this company moving. This is a talent, isn't it?
You can't have an army of people looking under the bonnet of every one of your employees. You have to build the right company culture in order to spot talent and and have programs to build them up. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, at the University of Cambridge, they run an experiment, right? They put 9 people in a room, and they told them, we are going to ask you a few questions, this is just an experiment. Now, out of those 9 people, 8 of them were part of the experiment. They knew. Just one person was a genuine, experimentee, if you will. And so they asked them a question, and that question had 3 choices, A, B, and C. The answer was very, very obviously C. And so the examiner went through the room, and everyone answered A, 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 A. When they came to the last person, who was the only one who wasn't in the, he felt so uncomfortable saying C, even though he knew it, that he ended up saying A, like everyone else. And now they ran the session a second time with another person, same thing, and they went A, 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 C, A, A. And then when they came to the last one, because somebody else had said C, he felt comfortable to say C. Now, most importantly, they ran the session a third time, and they went A, 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 B, A, A, even though no one said C, but because somebody said something different, he felt comfortable saying C, right? So what I'm trying to say is that if you create a culture within your company where you have talented people that feel comfortable speaking up, giving ideas, disagreeing with the management in a polite and professional way because they see something else without feeling that is going to put them at risk, then you can actually spot talent. The late Steve Jobs said something very interesting. He said, you don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. You hire them so they can tell you what to do. And if you create that kind of environment and that kind of culture in your company, then you can start spotting talent. And then you have to have programs to bring them up. Whether it's mentoring programs and really sitting down and understanding with those potential leaders, first of all, whether they have the ambition to lead, and B, how to create a setup where they can actually bring to the company what the company needs. Because for every person, you have three aspects that you have to look at when you want to start bringing something to the companies. What do you like doing as a person?
Yeah.
What are you good at? And then what does the company need? And then you combine these three elements to find your niche. And if the company helps you
Yeah.
understand those three elements and elevate you to where you can actually add more and more value, then you can start contributing further to the company. Does it make sense?
Well, that's amazing. I mean, what you say, absolutely. Definitely. I feel like a student in a classroom. Thank you. Thank you, Nyembo. Thank you so much. But talking about the corporate world, yeah, let's say I'm just a simple employee in a big corporation and you're talking about all these three things. But if I want to grow further, what can I do? Just you want to progress? Is there a way that I can progress? Or if the company says like, look, we've got this spot taken, this is taken, what do? You just go?
No, the first thing is, as I said to you, the first thing is, let's define leadership. Leadership is not having formal authority over people. Leadership is putting yourself forward to bring people together. Bringing people together. That's leadership.
Yeah.
Whether they are your direct reports, whether they are your peers, whether they are your, bosses, etc. Somebody who's capable of bringing people together is a leader, even without formal authority. Now, for me, it was, when I mentioned that the company has to create the right culture for people to emerge, for potential leaders to emerge, some people are natural leaders without even realizing it, without even a specific agenda behind it. They're just naturally going to look at people around them, being very open, listen, watch the dynamics, etc., see what's working and suggest something. It might be casual or innocent, but that's leadership. If somebody takes the step of saying, hey, look, this might not be working, etc. I have few ideas here. Why don't we do this, etc. And trying to bring people together toward that common resolution, that's leadership, right? And when you're in a company that has a culture where those ideas are nurtured, welcomed, etc., you're in the right place. But to your exact point, when you're a young person and you're trying to make a mark, yes, we can talk about the three elements that I was talking about, finding what you're good at, what the company needs, and what you like doing. But I always advise young people not to choose a job, to choose a boss. That's very important.
That's interesting.
Because you can be in the greatest company in the world, but if your boss or your bosses don't care about elevating you, mentoring you, understanding what you're good at, etc., or don't listen to you when you have career aspirations, it's no good. You'd better be in a lesser company where somebody has your best interest at heart.
Wow.
Where somebody is prepared to understand, what you want, understand what you're good at, and mentor you and design a program for you to achieve your goals, right? The first thing, I learned as a young professional when I came to this country, I was working for this company, and then my boss then, came and he had a brand new car, and he gave me a ride to the station, and I said, wow, this is that's
this
quite
is a dream, yeah.
That's quite a ride. And he said to me, well, why don't you go and get one? And I said to him, look, of course I can't afford it. And he said, well, tomorrow morning you come in my office. If you want to afford it, we'll put together a plan so that, within the next 6-9 months, whatever time frame you feel comfortable with, you can afford it. And for me, it sounded like a joke.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, I went in his office and I said, look, it's true that we spoke about your car, but that's not my priority.
Yeah.
These are my priorities. Why don't we put a plan for you to help me get to my priorities? And he did. And I left that room saying, okay, that's somebody who actually wants to help me get to the next stage of my career or to achieve whatever I want to achieve. And that's far more important than somebody who's just happy seeing you doing the same job over and over again because you do it well. You're not a problem. They live in your corner for the next 10 years. Even if you do a great job, that's never going to take you anywhere.
That's amazing. It's an amazing example. But, most of the people, most of the managers, they just want you to work and not raise any questions. I know maybe in big corporations, I agree. Maybe in big corporations, if there is a good manager, they might want to elevate you if you find some talents. But let's say like a simple job, like a restaurant job or anywhere. Mm-hmm. I don't think your manager would say, yeah, come on, you can do it, grow. They'd say like, okay, you're there, fine, do your job. I know maybe it's a different, it's corporate world and the rest of the professions are maybe a little bit different.
Not necessarily. Obviously, it always depends. When you're in hospitality, for instance, you work in a restaurant, okay? First of all, you have a lot of your employees that are there as a stopgap, okay?
Yeah.
It's almost, a bad use of your time to try and make somebody become a manager or of a restaurant, etc. if he's just doing it while he's studying something else to go somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have to identify people that are there because it's a choice of life. They said, okay, I want to one day own my restaurant, and this is what I'd like to do, etc. You have to identify those people, and once again, it's by talking, understanding who your people are, etc. And then once you understand that, the way I run my team is to look at every individual and give them a few tasks and responsibilities outside of their function. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You can say to somebody in a restaurant, okay, you're very passionate about, one day potentially becoming the manager of this restaurant. You are going to sit next to me every time I'm doing, my inventory or when I do account, next to the accountant, etc. So they start learning few things. And then when I'm on holiday, you can take care of this, or you can, deputize for me here and there. And people feel empowered. So what you do by doing that, it's not only make people learn new skills, help them understand what they like and not and don't like doing, because sometimes people don't know, and see, you also enable them, to sometimes discover passions or things that they'd love to do that they absolutely were not aware of.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, most managers don't want to do that because you're helping somebody either take your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somebody become more attractive to the competition because I'm working at the restaurant, I become very good at something, then I can go somewhere else and get more money.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game. You have to accept that because leadership is about the others. When you are now a dad, it's about your son. It's not about you.
Yeah, that's true.
It's about them. And if they grow and they outgrow you, you have to accept it. It's part of the game. If you have a genuine interest for the well-being and the progression and the aspirations of the people around you, then you're a good leader.
That's so powerful.
Whether it's a restaurant or a multi-billion-dollar corporation, doesn't make any difference.
That's so powerful. Because I think like knowing that you helped someone grow, like put someone first, not you first, that's very powerful.
There is no bigger satisfaction than that, at least for somebody like me, and I'm sure for a lot of people. And sometimes you don't know it because the problem with our society today is that the definition of success is what society tells us success is. I have money, I have a boat, I have 5 villas, I have whatever, okay? It's all of these external factors of wealth that are portrayed and promoted as signs of success. Very, very few people ask themselves, what does success means to me, right? I'm a father today. Today, I consider that my name is not the name that my children inherit from me. It's the name that I'm borrowing from them. And I have to take good care of that name so that they can wear it with pride, okay? And that's what success means to me. I'll just give you a small anecdote to illustrate that.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 years ago, I went back home to the Congo, and my parents live in the capital city, Kinshasa. But I grew up, we used to live in Lubumbashi, which is the second largest city in the Congo, but it's 2,000 miles away.
Wow.
Okay. So I went there just to see the city in which I grew up as a child, and met a few friends. And then we went at this restaurant. And when we got there was an elderly couple having lunch. And my friend said hello to them because he knew them and introduced me. And when this lady heard my surname, she said to me, "Are you the son of Alphonse?" I said, "Yes."
Wow.
She started crying, stood up, and embraced me very, very hard. And I didn't know what was happening to me. And I asked her, "Do you know my father?" And she told me a story, because my father is a pilot. Okay.
Yeah.
And she said, 3-4 years before that, she had a young brother who was terminally ill with AIDS.
Wow.
And he was in a South African hospital. And my father happened to be on a mission. He was flying a corporate jet. And he was on a mission in South Africa and heard about this young Congolese that was dying. Okay? He didn't know him. He went to the hospital, grabbed this kid, put him in this plane, flew him back to the Congo so that he could die surrounded by his loved ones. Okay?
Wow.
And he got sacked for that.
Seriously?
Okay.
No way.
But he did it because it was the right thing to do back then. And having somebody that I don't know, that we didn't know, just saying that your father is in every single one of my prayers every night, okay, because of that selfish act that he did, was something beautiful. And what I felt about my name that day was something that I need my children to feel.
Yeah.
And that's life. There is this...
That's powerful. Wow. Wow. That's so emotional, actually. Wow.
Oh, thank you. But it's true. And it's true, especially now that, you are starting a new chapter in your life, Nikon. The reality is this is what matters more than anything else. It's whatever you build has to be meaningful for the people you love. There is this nurse in Australia that used to be in the palliative area where she was dealing with terminally ill patients. So she started writing a book and interviewing thousands of people that were dying from all walks of life, from a plumber to a corporate executive to university professors to athletes, etc. And out of 4,000 people that she interviewed dying, one of the questions that she was asking them is, what do you regret in your life? What would you have done differently?
Yeah.
Not a single person talked about career or money.
Seriously, from 4,000?
Not a single person.
Wow.
Every single one of them spoke about their loved ones. I didn't spend enough time with my children. I didn't take time out to actually stay with my loved one, my friends, my parents, etc. I didn't, follow my dreams and my passion for traveling and everything but money and career, which is quite incredible, right? So that's something we all need to keep in mind. We can achieve everything we want in life, but it has to count for the people that we love. Otherwise, it's useless. That's my philosophy.
That's very well said. But at the same time, sometimes I see that, I want to be good at what I do, at my career. And sometimes you're so busy, you're doing so much that you don't have enough time to spend with your loved ones. How do you balance it? You personally, how? Because you're obviously very busy managing people internationally. How do you balance it?
Yes. For instance, it's a great point. Most of my teams are in the US and in Asia, etc. And for instance, I work very, very, very late because I finish with my US folks, etc., until 2, 3 a.m. But they all know, for instance, that from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m., my time here, it's family time.
Oh, I see. So
I take no call, no meetings, nothing. I will put my kids to bed, read them a story, have dinner with my wife, and then after 9:30, 10 p.m., they can abuse me until 4 a.m. It's fine. But that time, it's family time. Unless something pretty bad is happening, there's no way I can deviate from that. But I don't do it because, I just want to spend time with my family. Of course, is the main reason. But you also have to recognize that unless you're a heart surgeon and somebody is dying on the ops table, what I do for living, if I'm not around, the world will still be spinning. You take a few days off with your family, you come back, guess what? The business is still going. So sometimes we have to realize that, yes, what we do is important, etc., but you have to trust people around you. You have to build a team of people that can help you become somehow redundant. Otherwise, it can't work. And you have to invest the time in your family. As your son is very, very young, he's a few months old. It goes so fast.
That's true.
You blink and he's out of the house.
I hope not, but you're right.
And those are moments you can't get back. So enjoy them as much as you can. Find that balance. It's important.
It is. I agree with you. And with time, to be honest with you, how I realized how it works now, because obviously your wife is not happy, but because you're working like 7 days out of 7, and you probably spend 1 hour, not even 1 hour, you come, you go, So now I try to really balance it. Just make a plan. Make a plan. Like, for instance, Sundays we're doing the podcast. Saturday is my family time, And as you said, like a few hours per day, this is it. It's family time. It's a great idea with what you said. You've got 2 hours, put kids to bed, and then, just do what you
because
want to do.
At the end of the day, absolutely, I agree with you. You want to feel fulfilled as a person, etc. But it's always important to keep in mind that fulfillment in your career, etc., is it's something that very quickly becomes the norm. Think about that great car that you wanted to buy and how excited were you, and then 2 years later,
that's it. You just don't care.
All that house, etc. That goes away. What doesn't go away is those moments with your son, with your wife, with your loved ones, with your mom, with your dad. That does not go away. You will always approach the same things with the same emotion. And the way that I approach my career is that I want to do as well as I can because I want to give as much as I can to my kids. But I also understand that whatever material I can give them, it should just be a part of what I give them, what I have to give them. The most precious commodity I can give them, it's time. I come from a family where my father was a pilot. He was the captain of the Congolese presidential plane for many, many years. Wow. My mother was a diplomat. So they were very, very comfortable, okay? When I left when I was 16, very quickly I became independent, etc. I never thought about what they could have given me financially or anything. I thought about, the time we spent together, that holiday they took me to, that time where your father comes and every evening they read you a story. I'll give you an example. With my boys, my older boy is 12. For 12 years, every single night, I'll sit down with him. When I'm here, when I'm traveling, we'll do video call.
Yeah, seriously.
And I will ask him, what do you want me to tell you tonight as a story? And both of them, they'll come up with, I want to talk
So
about
you got
Spider-Man.
12, you've got one 12 and
12
one
and
is 4.
8.
Oh, 8. Sorry, yeah.
And so I made up a story, every night
Seriously,
for
that's
12
cool.
years. And it's good mental exercise
Oh,
for
wow.
me as well.
It's amazing.
And it's a joke between us. So we have themes that we use, etc. And they make me invent a story every
But
night.
they know the story is invented by you. They know that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because one will want to talk about Spider-Man, the other one will want to talk about dinosaurs, and I'll try to come up with a story that combines everything that they want that they want on that specific evening, and it's fun. And now our project is at some point to actually, because they both love drawing, etc., to start creating our own comics, and that is a project that we are going to do, the three of us.
That's amazing, actually.
And those are the things that they will remember in 20 years' time. It's not that PlayStation that I bought them. That's not what they remember. They will remember the fun we had together, putting those stories together. They will remember the holiday where we were playing in the swimming pool together. That's what they will be left with.
That's sort of like simple, precious,
simple stuff.
Moments. It's amazing. So I'm curious now about your stories. So your stories have like beginnings, they have the middle, they've got some drama in there, some suspicious stuff, they've got like a bad guy, a good guy, they're fighting. Or was it like a story you try to teach them something?
Always, yes, absolutely. So what we've been doing lately, it's the story of this character that is just young kid their age, that lives in Greece, and every evening he goes to bed, and then a few seconds later he wakes up, and it's kind of a dream, and he's a character, and he can be anything.
Oh,
from, as I said, a dinosaur to a superhero to an historical figure, and he goes through an adventure, and in the end, he has an item from that dream. Or from that adventure. And then he goes back to bed in the dream. And when he wakes up and he's that kid again, that we call Sophocles.
Okay. Yeah.
He says to himself, I just had a great dream. And then he looks underneath his sheet and he has the item from the dream. And
fantastic.
So we don't quite know whether it's a dream or not. And so we've been building this character. And so now we want to start.
You know what? I think it's amazing. You have to do it and do it fast. I think you have to patent it because someone can steal it, It's okay. No, it's amazing. It's genius. Actually, it's a great story for some comics or like a movie. Honestly, it is.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
like it.
And we enjoy, and now it becomes interactive. It's not just me telling the story. They can
add stuff,
and we're just having fun.
Fantastic. Okay, what is the secret of happiness for you? For you, your wife, your kids? How can you be happy for 100 years? Because nowadays people get together, they get married 2-3 years, get separated. It's so easy. It's so simple. It's just like, do people don't believe anymore in this family, in this word?
Yeah. So there are a few things there. First of all, our society is making it more difficult for people to actually live together for an extended period, for a very simple reason. Mm-hmm. If you talk to your grandfather or your grandmother or elder generations, when the husband or the wife was going to work or traveling, for that period of time, whether it's a week, whether it's the entire day, etc., they were missing each other. Now, we never get to miss each other anymore.
Why?
Whether all day long, your wife can call you, can see your face.
Yeah.
Whenever you're traveling, you talk, you chat, etc. No, you don't miss your friends because you talk to them
all the time,
every time you want. You never have to wait until you meet them again, right? And also it takes away a lot of the mystique of people, etc. Because we're so exposed today. everything that we do when we use social media, etc., it just kills the whole mystique, etc., and it makes it very, very difficult for people to simply, wait to see the other person again, etc. So it's it's a problem. The other thing is, in today's society, obviously we are less dependent from one another.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And thirdly, I think everyone just has too many choices and access to too many things. Being in a situation where you're constantly looking at the other person and accepting your differences, accepting your, the fact that you will go through periods that are difficult, but you have to rebuild, etc., and looking at the big picture, it's not easy, because when I look at couples that don't function very often, there are people that get together with different values.
Yes.
If you have different tastes, different ideas, different passions, it doesn't matter. You can really function.
You can accept that, isn't it?
If you have different values, it's almost impossible to function as a unit. And people today are very, very quick to getting together, starting a family, etc., and finding out later on that they don't share the same values.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the way that they want to raise their kids, if you take somebody who's very spiritual and somebody who's very liberal, sometimes those core values, the things that make you, and if the other person doesn't respect them and doesn't allow you to be the person that you want to be, it's very, very difficult, right? But for the rest, we are just who we are.
Yeah, but no, I'll be honest with you. You are so right. You are absolutely right, because it is true. And you look a lot of couples around you, as you say, why did they separate? Because they look like they are an amazing couple. Mm-hmm. They look like they're happy. They were, wow, like a love story. And then they separate, and you think, why? And when you go deep, you are absolutely right. I can tell you that, yes, they had different values. And that's probably the main thing why they go different ways. Because at the beginning, and Momo, Momo, you know very well, and he said he has a very interesting saying that the 5-week honeymoon, when the 5-week honeymoon ends and you go to the real world, and then you start actually to see these values, to see that you have different values, and whether you accept them, and you start to, maybe, if you don't have them, get them somehow, learn them, respect them,
Absolutely.
And but wait, I'm just curious, where do you get these values from? Is it family? Is it education? Because as you said, your dad did a amazing thing. Wow. He lost his job. I'm impressed with the story. He lost his job helping this poor guy to die in his own country, close to his parents. That's unbelievable. Wow. Where did you get these values? How?
Yeah, values is a mixture of, what, where you're born, your surroundings, and the teachings, and from your parents, the people around you, your loved ones, etc. But to come back to, the couple situation we were talking about earlier, the issue as well is today, if you want to understand whether you have the same values with people, okay, it's about becoming friends. Not a lot of couples are friends before being a couple. And very often you'll see that people that end up being a couple after having been friends for a long time are far more solid as a couple, because they've known each other. The friendship usually is born out of sharing values. Right? Yeah. And then if that turns into love, it adds something, very, very special. And you and I met at football, right? What I love about London, that you would never see or very rarely see in other countries. Or if I go to Paris or Brussels or in Italy, or it's people coming together because they share a common passion,
Yeah.
but they come together not as a group of people because they all work in the banking industry,
Yeah.
or on that pitch where you and I met, you had corporate executives, you had plumbers, you had gardeners, you had lawyers, you had bankers, you have everything. And first of all, okay, there is no judgment. We share a common value, which is our love for sports.
Yeah.
But then what's, for me, it's obvious, and this interview is very much part of that, is that we realize that we have so much more in common than what conventional wisdom would suggest, because we're not that different as people.
Yeah.
We share common values, and then naturally when you start meeting people from all walks of life, etc., you start connecting with those that are more aligned to you, okay? And it doesn't matter whether they have a different color of skin, a different religion, a different sexual orientation, or different whatever, jobs and careers or level of earning. That doesn't matter whatsoever. But you can't see it anywhere else. At least I've not seen it the way that I see it in London. When I came to this country, the first time I went to just kick the ball around was in Hyde Park. And I got there, I was invited by a friend of mine who was in the board of director of the European Bank, okay? Wow. So a pretty senior guy.
Yeah.
And we started playing and meeting people, and I was surprised to see that among the guys that were playing there after 2 or 3 weeks, there was this homeless person who was coming there, and his name was Andy. And Andy was part of the group. And everyone was, hey, bringing him a sandwich or a drink or a pair of shoes so he can play, etc. And for me, coming freshly in this country, that was something very surprising. Yeah. And the most surprising is that the guy was absolutely crap at football. You wouldn't even think that, oh, yes, he's good enough, so we'll take him anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it was genuine friendship.
Acceptance.
And when I actually realized what London is, from that perspective, is my office is in Bank. One day, it was on the 1st of January, my first year I was here, I saw people coming out of the tube, embracing the homeless people that they used to meet every day at the station. Because one thing is to say, every time I go, I give a coin or a coffee or something. And another thing is to take somebody in your arms and say, hey, Happy New Year. I hope this year will be better for you. That doesn't happen anywhere else. That made me fell in love with this place. Definitely.
Why? Actually, you are absolutely right. And everyone who's coming here, we have the same conversation. They love London. They love it. There's some. It's very tough, actually. Mm-hmm. It's a very expensive city to live, but you can achieve your dreams, and people are so welcoming. Why is it that?
Because you don't have the same obligation to respect an etiquette.
Ah, right.
Here, you can be who you are. If you want to have your hair green, go for it. You can be a top lawyer if you have a turban on your head, or if you are a punk, or if you have a tattoo on your face. It doesn't matter. For as long as you are respectful, honest, competent, people will treat you for what you bring to the table.
For
who you are, what you look like, etc. Yes, you always have, challenges and
of
people,
course, like everyone else. Yeah.
But to the extent, of London, you don't have it anywhere else. For me, it's the real multicultural city, the only one. Because, for instance, in New York or in other places like Tokyo or Singapore, etc., a lot of communities have been there for generations. So they've settled.
Yeah.
You go to New York, you have Chinatown, you have Little Italy, etc. So people do business together in the day, and then in the evening they go back to their communities.
Yeah.
In London here, people come for 2, 3, 5 years. So we come here, there is no settlement. We actually live together.
Yeah.
It's always funny for me. My wife is white and blonde. She comes from France. When we're in London, it's a completely normal life. As soon as we land in my home country in Italy,
That's
and
it.
she's holding my hand, you can clearly see people that are not used to seeing a mixed couple.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're looking bad at us or anything, but
It's strange.
not usual.
Yeah, it's not
right?
used to them. Yeah.
And when you spend an extended amount of time in London, you forget that elsewhere it's not the norm, right?
Yeah.
And that makes this place quite unique.
But to be honest with you, with the race, it's quite interesting because when I grew up in Moldova, where like you don't see black people, but it's very strange. I grew up even in kindergarten. We had two. It was a black guy and a black girl, and for me, we're like kids like everyone else. But so basically, when I was going sort of like away in different classes, the people looked for them strange. But I was like, for me, it was always a little bit weird. Why they look at the kids like everyone else, So I think for me, it's strange what happens in America, and I don't know why is this happening. I've grew up probably. To answer my own question is that people have to get used to them, and we have to educate them that we're all here anyway. So what's the point? Yeah, we're all different, but we have the same values, same life, and people should be treated and judged by what they do, but not like what they look like. And with the Black Lives Matter, what is your point of view, and what can we bring from London, for instance, to America, to other places? Why people care so much about that? Because so what? I'm black. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just doing my things, my job. Why should you look like me like that? Why should we treat you? Why should I be treated like that? For me, it's strange. How do you look at that?
Yeah. So first thing first. To your point, when you're a child, no child is born racist.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Children are colorblind. They start noticing differences just like. They'll notice that kid is a little bit rounder than the others, or that a kid has a different skin complexion, or that kid is taller than the others, etc. Those are normal differences, but racism very often comes from what they hear at home, right? Education, and sometimes it's something that is clearly transmitted. Sometimes, as I was saying to you earlier, the small, passing comments or something like that have consequences on the children without the parent or the adult making them realizing that they're shaping up, a child's perception of society.
Yeah. You have to, That's why you have to be very careful. You're absolutely right.
It is paramount, because life itself, will create tensions, because life is competition. You're an athlete. You know that everything's competition.
Yeah.
So in life, when you go out, whether you want to model or everything that your competition can use against you to get ahead of you will be used. Will be utilized. Oh, you want to be a model? I'm taller than you, so I have something on you. So I'll call you Sneezy because you're shorter than me, right? Or whatever it is. Or you're a little bit rounder, or you're whatever it is. Okay, competition is what can I find in my competitor that I can use against them to get ahead. Okay, but when it comes to race. Okay, it's far more complex, because it's competition, and it's either passing comments or purposeful, teaching of racial differences, and it's a very, 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 very big problem, right? And the third part, the third element is media in general. Okay, today more and more, I grew up as a young African, being raised Catholic, going in a church, okay, and seeing Jesus as a white,
Yeah.
blue-eyed, blonde
Yeah.
person, right? Because
Yeah.
everything that was good was associated with a certain stigma.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Understanding today that Jesus was a Middle Eastern, looking certainly more like a Middle Eastern
Yeah,
than
than a-
Robert Redford, it's yes, it's something that today doesn't shock anyone because it's reality.
Yeah.
It's going back to a place where we start thinking that we just have to be cognizant of our history as human race.
Yeah.
The fact that today, Nikon, you might be white, you might be coming from Moldova, but I can tell you today, if you go and do some DNA test, you probably have ancestry in Nepal, in Africa, etc.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm not denying that. Yeah.
So we're all citizens of the world, but the reality is, as a black person, what I'd like to see is, yes, in some places it's been worse than other places, so you have to react and you really have to make a point. But also, as a black person, I want to treat you as I expect you to treat me.
Definitely,
Right?
of course.
Because
Absolutely.
I can't say because I've been mistreated that gives me the right to mistreat you. I am as allergic when I see a black person going on stage to claim an Oscar saying this is for all of the black actors. I would not accept a white person to say that because it'd be racist.
Yeah.
So I don't think I should say it either.
That's true. That's
Okay?
true. Very true.
We either all fight to become colorblind
Yes.
and to treat each other based on who we are, our character,
Yeah.
who we are. Am I an honest person? Am I a good professional? Do I bring something to society, etc.? All of these values, or we're just trying to see which race is ahead of which in what context. How can we leverage this Black Lives Matter movement to get one over
exactly.
the other races, and that becomes
That's a problem.
a very big problem.
You said it very well, and I agree with you with this Oscars. But I think the Americans, because probably someone in America has to gain something from this. America is all about money, is all about selling. They're all sort of money orientated. So probably, but someone saying like, of course Black Lives Matter, but probably someone wants to get some money out of it, or I don't know.
Yes, I agree with you. So first of all, let's be honest. There is real trauma, okay? So let's not take it lightly. Some of the things that have happened and are still happening in that country and in many other places in the world, it's still a very, very big problem, okay? Because people are treated differently. And it's a reality. So it's not just about having been enslaved for 100 years ago. I saw because sometimes small things, are more, relevant than bigger things.
Yeah.
I saw a clip where you had a police car, okay, driving in a neighborhood when the mask, in a state where masks were mandatory. The same police car saw a white person. They stopped and they say, "Hey, sir, you need to wear a mask." And the policeman handed that person a mask. 2 seconds later, they saw a black person without a mask, and they arrested him.
What?
In a space of 15 seconds, right?
Wow.
So those things are still happening, right? And the Black Lives Matter movement, etc., is something that is justified in its essence. But I think, we have to get away from, there is a difference between saying Black Lives Matters, not less and not more than any other, and just Black Lives Matters because we're better. Or, historically, Africa is the cradle of humanity, etc. You can't try to turn the table. It's not about turning the table.
Yeah.
It's about level setting. And that's the message that's missing. Saying, I'm not better or worse than you. We're just human beings.
We're all equal. Yeah.
the differences between us is who we are as a character. And that's it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And that message gets lost because of those racial wars that they have.
Totally, because in a racial war, there'll be no winners, only losers. That's for sure. But I think it's good, like Black Lives Matter. It's a good initiative. It's a good step forward, and I think with time, slowly, I think things will get better. I'm sure we're becoming more, and in the internet, Facebook, all these sort of things, they unite us in a way or another. They make us closer to each other.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
And it's important, but it's important in the sense that this is not, this is driven by representatives of the people that have actually suffered or are suffering this abuse. Because in my country, we say the lion will become the hero of the story the day he will have his own historian.
That's genius, actually.
Right? Because
genius.
That's a reality.
Yeah.
Because even think about Hollywood movies of the past decades, etc. Even when it was about Africa, etc., or civil rights movements, etc., the hero was always a white person saving the black people.
Yeah.
Or the Native Americans or whatever it is. So now when you start shifting those tables, you realize that having your heroes, having people that are your torchbearer that can actually advance the narrative, it's very important.
Yeah, definitely.
Look at what's happening in the US. The reason why they're so far ahead of some of the other, countries where these problems still exist, but where there are far less solutions, is because they have heroes. They have Dr. Martin Luther King. They have, I don't know, the Senator Lewis that died not so long ago. They have figures like that have embodied a fight for freedom that advances. The South Africans, they had Mandela, Stephen Biko, etc. Look at the Aborigines in Australia. They don't have those figures, and therefore they're in limbo. Look at the Native Americans. So it has to come from within.
Yeah.
But then the fight has to be the right fight. The fight for equality and freedom, not the fight to take over.
Exactly, yeah. But also one more thing, I think it's very important. A lot of people, and I'm not talking about like from different races that come here. I'm talking about myself as well. You come here, you come to a different sort of city. You are quiet, you are shy, you are a bit afraid. It comes within because you, for instance, you're a very confident guy. You would never say, look, guys, and you demand from others. You said very well. You have to demand from others. Doesn't matter what color you are, race. Look, I treat you like I treat you. You treat me the same. And that's very important. It has to come from within. You don't have like a chip on your shoulder. Sort of like, look, I'm who I am. I treat you respectfully. Treat me respectfully as well. So you don't have to allow people to treat you differently. You have to feel free. And it doesn't matter what history says. Look, I'm free. I'm here. I'm who I am, and just respect me for who I am. It is important It's important to come from us as well.
Yes, but for that, there is a very, very critical ingredient. When you look at other people, you have to try and find what unites you and what makes you connect, as opposed to what separates you. Okay.
Yeah.
Because somebody like me, okay. In my life, I've had as many episodes that could have made me, a very, very different person. But I chose to find in other people what binds us as opposed to what, separates us. I'll just give you a small anecdote. When I was in Belgium, I told you earlier that I came here, but people either pursue something or run away.
Yeah.
And it's always a little bit of both. Okay, I came here to pursue something, but I was also running away in some way from a long relationship that I had in Belgium. I lived with this girl for almost 10 years, during my old forming years,
Yeah.
from when I was 18 to 28, okay? And she was Belgian, French father, Belgian mother, born and raised in Belgium. And we were together for a long time. And during that time, and we probably had been living together for 7 or 8 years, during that whole time, every weekend, her parents were separated, and her father and I are still very great friends. But every weekend, I used to go and take her to her mom, and we would spend at least the Sunday there, eat together. And this woman welcomed me in the house and everything. So it was just a normal family time.
Yeah.
When her daughter decided to leave me, okay, I was obviously heartbroken, but the way that I was raised with certain principles, respect of the elder,
Values
etc.,
and all that. Yeah.
I took my car, okay, and I drove to her mom's house on my own, just to thank this woman for having welcomed me for so many years in her house as a son, okay, and say, okay, your daughter, has decided to leave,
it, yeah.
but I just wanted to thank you, and that's it, okay. And I went there. This woman opened the door, did not let me in, looked at me in the eyes, and said, "You can't imagine for how long I've been waiting for this moment.
Are you
Because
serious?
I did not want my daughter to finish in a bloody African village."
Wow.
So imagine this. Just think about it for a second. This woman had been hiding her feelings for 10 years. She could have done it for 10 more minutes, and just said, "Oh, okay, thank you, bye." Close the door. And that was it. She would,
Wow.
no, she decided to enjoy the moment. She could not let me go without letting me know in my face what she thought for all of these years. And it was purposeful, and she wanted to hurt me.
She wanted.
Because she just had to pretend for another 10 minutes, and I was gone with my
Yeah.
illusions.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Exactly. You were happy.
I was a young man, heartbroken, going to a mom just to thank
To
her
thank her for everything.
and receiving that in my head. Because racism, I as a person can deal with the racism that I see, okay?
Yeah.
Because most of the time the people that are,
I just talk.
you
Yeah.
know, it's not a very great sign of intelligence. It's what you don't see that really hurts.
Yeah.
It's what-
Exactly. I agree with you. Yeah. Wow.
And I sat in my car, drove back home, and everything in me was exploding. The disappointment, the pain, the confusion, etc. And it took me a lot of mental gymnastic to say, okay, she does not represent these millions of people that look at me as somebody that they could love and respect, etc. But I could have gone the other way.
Yeah. You could have gone
easily,
the other way easier. Yeah.
especially because I was completely isolated. I didn't have a mom, a brother, an
Yeah.
auntie. I was on my own in this foreign land, going through an experience where somebody that was a surrogate parent for me in a way
Yeah. Yeah.
had just told me, "You're a nigger to me, and I don't want you in my house, and I'm so happy you're no longer there," right?
Wow.
But I chose not to go, to that path, and I chose to focus on other people and say, okay, maybe I'll have other slaps in the on my face, but she does not represent everyone.
No, look, Captain, I'll be honest with you. I mean, that's such a powerful story. It's so emotional. I don't even want to imagine what you went through. But to be honest with you, I think that sort of people, I think it doesn't matter your race, your color. She would have said it to
Completely
anyone.
agree.
To anyone.
You're so
Doesn't
right.
matter. She could have said like, "Oh, you are whatever from a village, peasant, whatever." So she just said that because that what woman she is. But I mean, it's incredible how small people can be, how they never mind it can be, but they don't see the bigger picture, and they don't. I don't know. I think there should be some sort of prosecution or something like this for people who does this? Or somehow they should understand that it's not normal, isn't it? To anyone, not saying about race, but to anyone to say words like this.
So for me, let's be honest. You have different types of sentiments that can lead somebody to think like that. The first one, the traditional one, it's the very essence of the word xenophobia.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about spiders and you see a spider, your first reflex is to be scared.
Yeah.
If you studied them, you know them, or if you've interacted with them, you know which ones can be hurtful, which ones are, very mild, etc.
Yeah.
So you don't approach it the same way. So being open, talking to other people, but that can only happen if you're exposed. If you're in London, great, because you meet people from every walk of life.
Yeah.
Okay. And also London is a land of opportunity. So you attract people with, with different skill sets, education level, etc. So you see everything. Okay. If you're in a small village in Moldova or in the Congo, etc., it's very hard to know what Swedish people are made of if you're in a village in the Congo.
Exactly.
Because they're just not around. Okay.
Yeah.
So the fear of what you don't understand, it's a genuine, sort of concern or reality. Okay. Now, the second element is a lot of people that have those sort of sentiments have deeper issues with themselves.
Yes.
Success, lack of work, lack of opportunity, and it's far easier to point out at somebody else instead of looking at yourself in the mirror and say, the reason why I'm not where I want to be in life, it's because I didn't do the right thing, or I don't have what it takes. It's because somebody else did it, or somebody else was preferred to me because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or they took our jobs, and that is highly unintelligent, and there's nothing you can do about it. The third element is very, very often just experiences. Okay, if you're, an old person, you live in a neighborhood where you see people that you've spent time with, and you have the same sort of past, etc. And suddenly your neighbors are changing, and you see people that speak different language, and you don't understand each other. And then, what media usually puts forward is crime and stuff like that. Then you start being scared because you see things changing around you. You feel uncomfortable, and you've seen things, etc. So it's a genuine thing that that authorities have to address, etc. So there is a whole spectrum of things.
Yeah, it's not easy, isn't it?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. Yeah.
But the reality is, there's only one way, to go forward is to level set. That's it.
And absolutely. I mean, I'm totally impressed with your wisdom and what you say and what you went through, which is in a way not fair that you had all these experiences, but in a way it made you who you are, like the person you are now. So open-minded, the wisdom that you got, and with you, I mean, it's amazing because you can talk on any subject. And with you, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm coming from a small village from Moldova. You come from Congo, and I don't care. I respect you for who you are. I think that has to be the norm. We're here on Earth for a reason. We're here together. We have to live happily together.
Yeah.
If we want to live in peace. Unless, I mean, it's like what happened in the Second World War with Nazis and all this sort of things. It's just like, it's not okay.
Yes, but it's reality. And to your point, right, it's almost like we are going to realize that we are brothers and sisters globally only the day Martians attack us, and then we realize that we're actually one race.
Yes, right? Yeah.
But the reality is, we live in a society that is way too competitive, and And because of that level of competition, you always have a certain class of people that come into power or in leadership positions that instead of finding ways of bringing people together, they find ways of divide to better conquer, whether it's at a state level, at a company level, etc. It's the same reality everywhere. You have two forms of leadership: is bring together and grow together, or divide and conquer. Think about Europe today. Europe, we forget about why Europe was created. Europe was created after the Second World War because people said we cannot have that happen again.
Yeah.
And if I have my house, you have your house, we have a third person with his house, we can be rivals because I want my house to be, the one that doesn't get affected by the fire or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay? But if I own 33% of your house, you own 33% of his house, and we are joint owners of those three houses, we don't want any of them to burn because we have a common interest in the three of them standing, right? And that's Europe. Europe was created to put our interests together so that, we avoid creating situations of supremacy and war, etc. Now it's true that every institution has its flaws, etc. And and you always have to balance it between respecting local identities and traditions, etc., while creating this sort of super state. But it is important to have common interests going forward.
Absolutely.
As a species.
No, absolutely. Looking about it, thank you so much. I'm so grateful, to have you here and to talk. It's unbelievable. I'm really happy. Just to wrap it up, I want to ask you a few more questions. Where do you see yourself? Do you want to carry on living in London? You have dreams, expectations, and for people who wants to grow, or do people anywhere in the world? What did you tell them?
First of all, to your first question, for me, home is where my wife and my kids are. As simple as that. We live in London. Both my boys are born here. My wife and I met here. We feel very, very comfortable. Now, I in my role, normally should be based in the US, and that might happen at some point, or we might go back to the Congo. It's wherever life takes us. We are very, very open-minded for as long as we're together. That's for us,
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
The most important thing. So for the time being, we don't have any plan to move elsewhere. So we're very comfortable here. And the other thing is, what can I say to your listeners, about what they should be focusing on in their career, etc. Just like in sport, you and I met at football, okay? You have people that have different skill sets, different skills, or different talent, different level of energy, different physiques, etc. There is one thing that is absolutely true. It's almost impossible to have both talent and ability to work hard. That's an exceptional combination that's very rare. But the one thing for sure is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So whatever you decide to do in life, and that's what I try to teach to my kids, it doesn't matter whether you want to be the plumber or whether you want to be the CEO of a corporation, or you want to be a gardener or an artist. Just be the best you can be at whatever you choose to be. That's the secret. Work hard, because at the end of the day, and don't ever let excuses or setbacks, pull you. learn. Mandela said, I never lose. I either win or learn. That's the reality, right? Learn from your
Unbelievable.
setbacks and work hard to become the best in whatever field you choose. That's the secret, right? It's working hard. You have to walk the walk.
And it's just find the patience. Sometimes I agree with you 100%. But sometimes we listen to this motivational like speakers and they say, yeah, you have to work hard. But at the same time, you have to find the patience, isn't it? Like be patient and just go through this pain. You have to.
Yes, you have to because it brings you something, but you have to learn from it. Because working hard, it's the secret. But it has to be smart. You have to work hard and smart. Okay? If you need 17 steps, okay, to get to the result, while you're doing these 17 steps, think about it. Do I need these 17 steps? Can I achieve it in 12 steps without compromising quality, okay, etc., so that I can get to the same result faster, etc. So having that ability to continuously, even though those 17 steps work, how can I improve something that is working?
Yeah,
and that's what I was saying earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's having that level of, A, curiosity, B, intellectual honesty. Don't compromise quality.
Yeah.
Just trying to find quicker, faster, better ways to either come to the same result in a faster way, in a more efficient way, or improve what you're doing. Right?
Definitely.
It's always important because standing still, it's the recipe for disaster. Today, if you were somebody 20 years ago that opened internet cafes, as soon as the mobile phones became a thing, you were out of business,
isn't it?
Right?
Exactly.
Things like that. If today you're a large oil company, and you can't rely on fossil fuel. You have to think, where is the market going? Where is the world going? It's electric. It's, all of this reusable energy, etc. Always trying to make sure that, A, you diversify your portfolio, and B, you think ahead of where the market's going. So that's what I can say.
Like that's absolutely true. Also, like look what's happening with a huge big corporation that invest in travel to the moon, to the Mars. It's gonna happen. 10 years, we're gonna be there.
Yes.
Even faster, maybe.
Today we say, hey, that person is narrow-minded because she's never left the country.
Yeah.
Our kids will say that person is narrow-minded because they've never left Earth.
Exactly.
It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time, of course.
Captain, thank you so much. I call you Captain because you resemblance Vincent Kompany from Man City, and you're a Man City fan. Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're a big Man City fan. For all Man City fans,
but
there.
First and foremost, I'm a sports fan.
Yeah, right? You are.
And the reason why I like sports like football or volleyball is, once again, just quickly, on that point, you were talking about, what people can do. It's knowing yourself. For instance, you have two types of sports. You have individual sports and you have collective sports. Individual sports are very often geared toward not only competition, but also self empowerment. Where collective sports, it's about very often team spirit and collective success, etc. And you have to know whether you do sport for well-being, for self-empowerment, or whether you do sport for competition. If you are a modern-day gladiator, I love collective sports because for me, sport is about the people. I'm not going to remember the great game that I won. I'm going to remember you, Nikon, because we met, we had fun together. The rest doesn't matter anymore. It's about the
result doesn't matter. Yeah, you're right.
And it's great to come together in a shower. It's like soldiers that have won a war and that sit together, and you know that I had your back, you had my back, and we only survived because of that, right? That's how I approach sport, and that's why I find it
fantastic.
A fantastic lesson for life. And I would encourage any parent to make sure that they put their children to do as much sport as possible, because it's a real lesson on how to push yourself to become better, how to work with others, how to become competitive and respectful at the same time. So it's a fantastic tool to learn to be a better person.
Wow. Wow, fantastic, amazing. Captain, I can't wait to see you at football. Most of the time we play against each other. We have a good fight.
You give me a really hard time.
You do. Captain, thank you so much. Once again, I'm so grateful to have you. I wish we could have talked longer, but honestly, I can't wait for next time to see and to talk about different things. And hopefully things will going to be better. Best of luck in your career and everything you do. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure for me as well. Good luck with this podcast. I hope that you are going to be a global success, and anything people like me can modestly do to help the cause, let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, Captain. Thank you so much.